We all know the story by now, but just in case you've skipped the last weeks of wrestling in addition to skipping whatever normal life was, here's a quick recap. Roman Reigns was meant to face Bill Goldberg at WrestleMania 36 for the Blue Universal Championship, where he'd reportedly win the belt. 10 days before the show, Reigns decided to pull out because of very real concerns over his health, having a compromised immune system from 2 bouts with leukemia, the most recent of which was last year, and his wife announcing she's pregnant with their second set of twins. I'm seeing double, 8 little dogs. Despite knowing that almost 2 weeks in advance, with both Roman himself and Triple H discussing it publicly, WWE didn't officially announce his match wouldn't be happening as planned until the night before, where they randomly added Braun Strowman without explanation. And throughout that weekend and ever since, Roman, one of the biggest stars in the promotion, hasn't been mentioned at all on WWE TV. And the company appears to be erasing any reference to him quicker than you can say Stevie Richards. This includes, but isn't limited to, Vince McMahon telling commentators not to say Roman's name at all on WWE TV. Reigns being edited out of a clip showing Seth Rollins' Money in the Bank cash-in at WrestleMania 31 on this week's Raw. His name not being brought up once by McMahon in April's Q1 investors call, despite specifically focusing on his absence as why TV ratings were down this time last year. And Roman being removed from all promotional material for WWE's Make-A-Wish campaign, getting taken off videos and website banners, and being replaced with John Cena's voiceover narration. Voiceover only because I can't see him. But it's not like WWE are completely Thanosing Reigns out of their universe existence, as he was shown in a clip embarrassing Triple H on Hunter's 25th career anniversary 2 weeks ago, and FS1 did an hour-long special on him this past Tuesday, something that WWE would have almost definitely signed off on. Unsurprisingly for WWE, this mixed and seemingly contradictory approach is because McMahon keeps changing his mind. According to the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, there most definitely is a rule in place for commentators to not mention Roman's name at all, but for everything else, McMahon's reaction changes daily based on which way the wind is blowing. Which is why he'll have a few seconds cut out of one of the biggest moments in recent WWE history on Monday, and then get a whole hour of FS1 devoted to him the night after. The obvious speculation here is that there is some form of backstage heat on Reigns from WWE management and McMahon for pulling out of their biggest show of the year, but that has never been confirmed. What I think is much more likely is that WWE is ignoring Roman on TV because as soon as they mention his name and why he's missing, they then bring a rather unwanted spotlight on whether WWE should be running these shows at all, if they pose such a danger to their wrestlers and staff. How do you think WWE should address Roman's absence on TV? Let me know in the comments, because I'll be replying to people from out of quarantine. And it's a situation that doesn't seem likely to change any time soon. Thanks for your support on Patreon, The Rocket, Dan Van Sky. The Wrestling Observer newsletter also notes a report from last weekend that ranks leukemia and lymphoma, the conditions Reigns has fought off in the past, amongst the highest risks for contracting the disease, both in being susceptible to getting it, and that the death rate for those who have those 2 strains of cancer is 3 times higher than usual. This, in addition to Roman's wife being pregnant, could mean Reigns won't return for a significant amount of time. But WWE need all the big name talent they can get right now, with Raw and SmackDown setting record low viewerships week after week during total lockdown. So much so, they're even going back on their own plans. One of these is AJ Styles, who returned on Monday's episode of Raw, despite originally being meant to stay off TV to sell his literal burial by The Undertaker in their Boneyard match at WrestleMania 36. AJ himself has tried to explain how he rose from the dead to qualify for the men's Money in the Bank match this Sunday. It's pretty simple, guys. Do you want to hear me say I dug myself out of the grave and I'm a zombie? I'm I'm not a ghost, I'm a zombie. Is that what you wanted to hear? No, man. If there's an opportunity, I'm gonna take advantage of it. Apollo Crews got hurt, I took advantage of the situation. It's that simple. The zombie community. Those comments were made on WWE's YouTube show The Bump, but on his own personal Mixer stream, AJ was a lot more honest. The return could have been more. I've heard people talk about, well, I mean, you kinda just wasted it. AJ Styles was buried alive, and he could have come back as a different character, in a different mood, a different look, something different about AJ Styles. He came back and he was exactly the same as before he got buried. I'm with you. I wish we could have waited. I think if times would have been different, that would have been something that we went with. Styles then also referenced circumstances and WWE lacking star power as why he was brought back ahead of schedule and put in the Climb the Corporate Ladder match, corroborating reports that the company is scrambling for talent to return to turn their sinking ratings around, with Becky Lynch, Edge and Randy Orton all advertised for Monday's episode of Raw. Ratings, unfortunately, are down across the board in the wrestling industry, with pre-taped, no-fan shows not drawing the same viewership as before. So thank the wrestling gods that Wednesday's AEW Dynamite and NXT saw a healthy ratings increase. Dynamite pulled in 732,000 viewers, which is up almost 40,000 from the week before, its highest rating since March, which was also its last live show, while NXT increased 26,000 viewers to 663,000. That means almost 1.4 million people watched wrestling live on Wednesday night. One of the standout moments from NXT was the full ring entrance debut of Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux, which included lip-syncing like Evanescence just came on at the indie disco, the words "Fall and Pray" repeated over and over, and all the smoke. The Street Profits are gonna want some of that. WrestleVotes has reposted their report from December, reiterating how much NXT is behind Kross. They've liked Kross for a while. That entrance just showed it. WWE has high hopes for him, pointing out how aggressively WWE pursued him and that he was offered a similar big money deal to Hangman Page when NXT tried to poach him from AEW. In the direct head-to-head ratings figures though, Kross and Bordeaux's debut entrance lost 84,000 viewers, with Moxley vs Kazarian gaining 90,000 at the same time on Dynamite. This is why we can't have nice things. Just 1 week of slightly better ratings, however, is too limited a data set to see if live wrestling shows really are the answer to confront declining viewership, and it most definitely won't quell AEW's heavy losses during the pandemic. In a sad version of the Primetime Players' old catchphrase, Tony Khan has revealed on the AEW Unrestricted podcast his promotion has lost millions of dollars. Khan was predicting the run between February's Revolution and this month's Double or Nothing 2 to be the best run of business we've ever had, with Moxley as champion, the debuts of Brody Lee and Matt Hardy, and the since postponed Don't Call It War Games Blood and Guts match. Instead, they've lost millions and millions of dollars in live events. Tony thanked the long extension with TNT they signed in January, which is now their only dependable revenue stream. A huge step in AEW's business that was incredibly significant at the time, but in hindsight has been even more vital. But even then, their ratings are down 10% exactly, which is what Khan estimated and told TNT about when they first stopped the live tapings. The man knows his numbers. And while he's doing everything he can to not take it out on the people that work here, eventually we're going to have to, because it's a business, implying that talent releases might have to come eventually. For now, AEW are pressing ahead with more shows, putting strict safety precautions in place, ensuring everyone tested negative for Steve Corino before being allowed to work for tapings. But even that isn't enough for such big names like the promotion's own co-executive vice presidents, the Young Bucks, and tag team champion Hangman Page, with them all missing Wednesday's show, implying they still don't feel comfortable traveling to and working during the pandemic. As of today, the United States has 1.29 million confirmed cases and over 76 1,000 deaths. Despite suffering a second wave of infections after easing lockdown measures, Japan has only had 15,000 confirmed cases and 590 deaths. Even with those much lower figures, New Japan hasn't run any shows since February, even without any fans in attendance. And they've just announced they'll be postponing their annual Best of the Super Juniors tournament that was meant to start next week, and that their Wrestle Dynasty show set for New York's Madison Square Garden in August will be delayed until next year. Only now is the promotion reportedly considering running empty arena shows, with the country's state of emergency set to expire at the end of May. On top of that, Tamatonga has told Wrestling Inc. the wrestlers are still being paid despite not working any shows, and while the company's not making any money. And for even more bonus points, Kazuchika Okada has personally donated 5 million yen to Japanese relief efforts, which is nearly $47,000. Charity Rain Omega! It's Money in the Bank this Sunday, so become a WrestleTalk pledge hammer on Patreon to compete against us all in our fantasy predictions league, Wrestle League, by clicking the P on the right. And are a bunch of released WWE wrestlers forming a super faction outside of the company? Click the video over there to find out, and make WrestleTalk.com your homepage for all the latest wrestling news. I've been Ollie Davis, and that was wrestling.